Hey, day 12, build your belonging. Slightly earlier today. Oh, I think my phone's about to drop because we're going out for dinner. So I'm coming in a little bit earlier and I'm going to talk to you about how to handle triggers. Now, it's so interesting because literally just seconds before I hit live, the post on Instagram from one of my favourite accounts to follow on social media, which is the holistic psychologist, fantastic psychologist called a woman called Dr. Nicole LePera. She's amazing. Give her a follow. Definitely worth following her content. It's really, really powerful. But the post that she had put on just before I came on live said about how we shouldn't avoid our triggers. And actually, so many of the issues that we face in society is because we are not taught how to build emotional resilience and how to handle these difficult situations and essentially to work through our emotions. And so I was like, well, that's perfect. This is exactly what I'm coming on to talk about today. So I'm going to give you a step-by-step process of how to manage triggers. So yesterday I spoke to you about why triggers are actually really important because they help highlight a wound, an injury, yes, it can be physical, but more often emotional injury that we have suffered in the past, and we are wounded from that place, and then that place, that injury keeps being reactivated, keeps being pressed on over and over again, and we react in the same or similar ways to how we did when the original injury occurred. And often we will, question ourselves and say, God, I feel like I'm overreacting to something. And often it's because you're not necessarily reacting to the thing that has happened right in front of you. You're reacting to something that has happened in your past. And so it feels so much bigger. And this is, a lot of it is unconscious behavior. It's the subconscious at work doing its very, very best to protect us. So we often feel frustrated with ourselves when we feel triggered. As if we shouldn't be reacting in the way that we are reacting anymore, and we're really hard on ourselves. There's not a lot of self-compassion, and that compounds the situation even more, because when we kind of punish ourselves for still reacting to something, we actually just stuff it down even further, and we're not actually getting to the root of it. And because it's uncomfortable, we don't want to feel it. So we just, we disregard it, we distract ourselves, and we never get anywhere. Like we never actually get to the root of what's going on. And so it's important, and this is what I've been creating throughout this whole series, is kind of learning to accept our emotions, be aware of them, sit in the discomfort, and then start to mine for meaning when we have a bit more capacity and a bit more resilience. So all of the practices that I've been walking you through, we're building foundations and we're becoming more resilient as we go through. So here is a practice that I am going to walk you through step by step now. Now, what I would say, the caveat to this series of steps is that it's great for things that are not hugely overwhelming. And really, I want you to treat them as as training exercises as and to use and develop as you grow. If you are suddenly in a place of real heightened emotions, extreme stress, and you are so overwhelmed, and I'm talking about the big things that happen, then I'm not going to suggest that you use this process, because actually what you need to do in that situation is soothe yourself, okay? So to get yourself in a state where you feel calmer and you feel more at ease, and then you can retrospectively work through those steps. So the technique that I'm going to talk to you about now is great for the things that are more manageable, uncomfortable, definitely still uncomfortable, but are essentially, within our grasp. So they don't feel too overwhelming, too big, because we're not forcing anything here. None of this work is about forcing yourself to change, forcing yourself, to the other side of a barrier. We need to do this at a pace that feels safe and a little bit stretchy. So safe and stretchy. If it's too far, if we're in the panic zone, it's not going to work. So it's got to be things that are manageable. And if you're not sure and you want to talk something through with me, message me, and I'm happy to to kind of guide you through a particular situation. But it's better to get yourself feeling safe and settled and work through something retrospectively than it is to be pushing yourself and your nervous system way too far. Safety first. Safety is always first, okay? So the first thing to do when you feel triggered is essentially to notice that you have been triggered or activated. If you're not comfortable with using the term triggered, then flip it and use the term, I feel activated in some way. And your first sign of this is going to be something physical. You're going to feel something in your body somewhere that is going to bring up some discomfort, and you're going to know straight away. And then you're going to notice that your mind starts to make meaning of what is going on in your body. So firstly, to notice that you have been activated and or triggered, and choose the language that works best for you. Language is so important. So noticing what it is, and then see if you can slow it down. So, thinking, right, where do I feel this? What is this activation? Where is it in my body? And see if you can kind of get a sense of what it feels like. So one of the days earlier on in the series was all about how the body knows first. And this is absolutely true, because the body is sending way more messages to the mind than the mind is to the body. So let's tune into our bodies. What does it feel like? So let's say, for example, I'm in a situation and I have this knot in my stomach, and it's a really familiar situation for me. Okay, so I'm just going to try and slow it down, and I'm going to identify that I have a knot in my stomach, and I'm going to see if I can just get a little bit of clarity on what is that knot? What's the emotion? What's the feeling? Can I attach a feeling to it? Is it fear? Is it overwhelm? Is it just stress generally? Do I feel nervous? Am I excited? Try and just slow everything down and see if I can tune into what the feeling is. And I really invite you just to sit in the feeling. So be in the discomfort of it for a brief amount of time, so you can start to kind of, okay, I'm getting a sense that I've got this knot in my stomach. This feels like I'm nervous about something. I'm scared that something's going to go wrong. That would be the one for me. Something's going to go wrong. And, try and kind of narrow down what is going on for you. Once you've identified that and you've allowed yourself to feel it, I then want you to think about how to allow yourself, your system to soothe. So first thing, most simple thing is to breathe deeply. So breathing in through the nose, and then just breathing really gently out through the nose or mouth. Breathing in through the nose and breathing out through the nose or mouth. And slowing your breath down, being more deliberate, breathing more deeply, and really allowing your system to calm and to settle. And you'll know when you start to feel more at ease and when you feel the stress start to decrease. You'll feel it, because your body will start to let go, and you'll just feel calmer and more at peace. And when you are in that space of more calm, I want you then to be curious about the trigger, the thing that put you in that state, the thing that created that feeling in the first place. And I want you to start to ask yourself, some questions like, what was going on for me there? And, replay it if it feels okay to do that, being mindful of, your responses in your body and how you're feeling. And you can always come back to the breath if it feels too much. Don't ever push yourself, ever push yourself through a feeling that feels too much to cope with. I don't ever want anyone to do that. But it's being curious. Like, what was going on for me there? And when you kind of do that playback of, okay, so this situation happened, it created this feeling in me. What I want you to start to do is to start thinking about going one layer beneath. If I can mine one layer beneath, what's the belief or the feeling that's really going on for me? Okay, so I was in a situation where I had to do a presentation. I felt this knot in my stomach and I'm aware that I was nervous. Okay, great. I'm nervous because I'm worried about speaking in front of people. And why am I worried about speaking in front of people? I'm worried they're going to laugh at me. Then I'm worried I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to get something wrong. So can you see how we're digging beneath the surface? Okay. And ultimately, if you can, see if you can get to the core belief that you are holding about this particular feeling in your body. So for example, I was talking yesterday about how one of my triggers is making mistakes and getting things wrong. And if I make mistakes, I will, it will be on my mind for a really long time and I have to really process it. And I worry about making mistakes because I worry about letting people down. So I make the mistake, then what's beneath that is I feel like I've let someone down. If I feel like I've let someone down, then I'm a bad person, because I mustn't let people down. And then what sits beneath that is if I'm a bad person, then I'm not worthy. And if I'm not worthy, then I'm not lovable. And you can see how we can get to this kind of bottom core belief. And that's what I want you to start doing, is just to start to get to the core belief. Now, for today's practice, I don't necessarily want you to do anything with that core belief at the moment. It's just about identifying it and being curious, like, do I see that coming up in other areas of my life? Where else am I getting triggered? Where else am I feeling this kind of fear, this anxiety, and what is sitting beneath it? And what we're starting to do is just opening our minds and being more curious about the feelings that are coming up for us, where they sit in our bodies, and what is at the foundation of it. And what I'm going to lead you through shortly after today is then what do we do with this? How do we change it? How do we feel differently? How do we actually start to create the long-term change? So let me just do a really, really quick recap of those steps. So the first thing is you're going to feel that activation or that trigger in some way. You're going to notice where it is in your body and you're just going to identify it. So I'm feeling a knot in my stomach. I'm feeling my heart beating really fast in my chest. My palms feel sweaty. There's a tension in my head. And give yourself a minute just to sit in that, be in that feeling. Just notice, okay, what's going on for me as I pay attention to this trigger. And then allow yourself to soothe. So deep breathing. Another really great one is just to tap just below your collarbone and breathe, which is EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. It's an amazing tool for soothing your system. So tapping and breathing. And when you feel that system start to settle, is to then be curious. What was going on for me in that moment? What was the situation that led to that activated state? And start to mine for meaning. What did I believe about this situation? Where do I see this coming up in my life elsewhere? And see if you can get to the bottom line. And often, very, very often, the bottom line will be, I'm not worthy and I'm not lovable. I'm a bad person in some way. And just notice, okay, because we're not saying that these are the truth. These beliefs are definitely not the truth. But it's starting to get clear on what they are. And then the next part of this series is me walking through how we kind of figure out where these beliefs came from and then what we do with them. Okay, thanks for today. And any questions, as always, let me know. Remember, we are building. So I'm not giving you all the answers in one session. We are building until we can get to a point where you have so many tools in your bag of tricks that you can then start to utilize them in a range of different ways and different feelings that come up. All right, have a lovely evening, everybody. And I look forward to being back with you tomorrow. Bye.